Hello friends, happy October. I'm doing my September reading wrap up today and I'm so excited to dive in. I had an excellent reading month. I had the Scooby-Doo readathon, I did a little readathon with my patrons, and I just had such a fun, bombastic reading month. So I'm so excited to dive into what I read. As always, this is going to be separated by genre, so we're going to start with cozy mystery. I'm going to start with one that really pleasantly surprised me, and it actually made it into my recommendations, like cozy fall recommendations video that I put up this last month. I'll link it above if you didn't see it. It's like over 35 different books I recommend for fall. They're all cozy, and that is Homicide at the Haunted House by Beth Dolgner. This is the Nightmare Arizona Paranormal Cozy Mysteries. It's book 1 in the series. I was so pleasantly surprised by this. I mean, you know, I bought the book. I wanted it to be good, of course. I was optimistic, but I have never read a super paranormal cozy mystery before. So I was a little nervous. I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, like you can see here on the cover some hints at different supernatural creatures, and I was kind of like, okay, I don't know how it's gonna be, but the premise sounded so good. Basically, this character, Olivia, she is divorced, she is broke, and she breaks down in this old ghost mining town called Nightmare, Arizona. I love a mining town setting. Maybe it's because I grew up and live in the Southwest, so I've been to different ghost mining towns, and I love it. I love the history. And she breaks down at this place. It's a very small town. She's desperate to get a job because she needs to repair her car so she can keep driving out to California. Well, she gets a job at a haunted house. And as you can expect from the paranormal, part that's labeled here, the haunted house actually has paranormal creatures and people. So it's just so much fun. Basically, she finds a body at the haunted house on her first day, very classic cozy mystery setup. But the found family elements with this and the setting and the paranormal just adds fun to it. It doesn't solve the mystery, it just adds fun to it, which I like. That's my type of supernatural paranormal with cozies. I so wholeheartedly recommend this series. I loved it. And it's a very quick read, so it's perfect if you're just looking for something spooky to curl up with, like the week of Halloween. It's only 182 pages print, so they have them on ebook. I really need to get some more books in this series. It's really good. Another one I love, The Grim Reader by Margaret Welch. This is part of the Secrets of the Castleton Manor Library. This is the 3rd book in the series. Each book is written by a different author. There are a couple of repeat authors later on in the series. I am loving this series. It is so... I've never heard anyone else on YouTube talk about it. Maybe I've just missed it. But this series, I am so grateful that I picked up book 1 on a whim at my used library book sale, because I have been loving this series. It's one of my favorite series I've discovered this year, and I read a lot of different cozies. Basically, we have Faith Newberry, and she works and lives on this estate, and they have this huge library with all these rare books and manuscripts, and each book they center around some kind of big event that they're hosting at the estate. So this one is a suspense writers convention, so there's all these suspense fans and everything, and it's just so good. And you get to read from the perspective of the cat a couple times. So if you've read Diane Kelly's Mountain Lodge mystery series, where you read from the perspective of her cat Yeti a few times, that's kind of what it's like with this. It's incorporated into the chapters. It's really cute. Watson is a hoot. There are so many mystery references throughout this book, and this one really had a unique plot for a cozy because most of it centers around a possible kidnapping. So we're actually kind of solving that as a crime. Writing for this, it's just so heartwarming and cozy, and the setting is beautiful, and I love Faith's, is it her aunt? I want to say it's her aunt who lives nearby, and I just love it. I don't know, there's just something about the writing that I love, and it's so impressive because it's so consistent from book to book, even though they're written by different authors. I don't know how they do it, but hats off to them. Okay, and then I listened to 2 audiobooks from Tonia Capez. This is actually my first month where I've read 3 different books from Tonia Capez, and I have really been enjoying them, especially on audio, because they're just very lighthearted, they're quick, they're shorter, cozy mysteries. So I started with her Mail Carrier mystery series because one of you recommended that to me after hearing that I liked the Stationery Shop mystery series by Vivien Conroy, and how I like stationary mail type themes. So this is her Mail Carrier series. It takes place in the South. Our main character is Bernadette, and I read both both book 1 and 2 with audio this month. So it's Stamped Out for Murder is the first book, and then Address for Murder, I believe, is the second book. As you can see, there's an adorable, cute cat on the cover. A dog also enters the series a little bit later on the second book, which I love. But our main character is Bernadette, and she is a widow. She has a grown adult son, and she's a mail carrier, so she works very much like close to people because she walks, like, it's a very small town, so she walks her route, so she's always interacting with people. There's these ladies who stay out on their front porch in one of the neighborhoods that are like kind of local gossips who kind of help her out, and they're just, oh, I love it. And the ending for the first book, I actually was tearing up, which impressed me so much because, like I said, these are shorter books, so the fact that Tonya Kappas could pack that much emotion into some of the subplots for these, excellent. I would recommend reading in order. I absolutely love it. It has so much heart. The mysteries have been really fun. I like the sub-characters. I like Bernadette. The audio brings it to life with kind of the southern charm and the southern accent. I have just loved this. So I think both books are like a 4-star read. I've just really had a fun time with them. They're just very lively. A Cup of Flour, A Pinch of Death by Valerie Burns. This is the third and most recent release in the Baker Shop Mystery Series. Please read this series. Please. This was a very good reading month for me with Cozies. A lot of these were repeat authors, so I had good feelings about them. It's been a very strong month, but this stood out. It's so impressive. I would read this in order. This one takes place in the springtime. Our main character is Maddie, and she's taken over her great aunt Octavia's bake shop called Baby Cakes, which is named after her mastiff Baby Cakes, who Maddie has also taken ownership of since great aunt Octavia passes in the first book and leaves Maddie her estate. So Maddie, I read this for my Scooby-Doo readathon vlog, so I'll link that above if you haven't watched it. It was really fun to film, lots of fun baking and cooking, and Maddie is just such a great character. She's kind of spunky, she's very millennial, she's got like a lot of social media influence, she is a bit of an influencer, so she's using that to market Baby Cakes. She comes in face to face with a nemesis, Brandy, who actually like stole her fiance away from her in the first book, who left her at the altar, so there's a lot of bitter feelings there. And this also kind of wraps up one of the subplots that started in the first book, which was so satisfying. Oh, so satisfying. And honestly, out of all of the dog cozies I've read, Baby is one of my favorite dog sidekicks. I love Baby. Baby's got heart. I love Baby. Another one I read was A Slice of Murder by Chris Cavender, and this is the first in the Pizza Lovers mystery series. This is a reread for me, which is so incredibly rare. I very, very rarely reread any books, especially because I read mystery, so you know, it kind of spoils the main engaging part of the book if you have already read the mystery. I'm taking it all back though. I might reread this whole series. I loved the experience of rereading this. I didn't actively remember who did it, but it kind of came to me, like I sort of recalled it closer in, and I just love Eleanor Swift so much. So she is a widow. She lost her husband Joe, and it's very heartbreaking and definitely deals with her grief over that, but she runs A Slice of Delight, which they open together, and that's her kind of connection to her husband. It keeps her sane, and she works there with her sister Maddie, who kind of runs the front end of things and she runs the back. One night she is delivering a pizza because her pizza boy called out, and she finds a dead body. The case ensues. This takes place in North Carolina. This just has the best family duo. Maddie and Eleanor get on each other's nerves. They're fun, but they're just like such believable sisters. Like Maddie is very out there and more extroverted and like, I don't know, more glamorous, and Maddie's more like introverted, keeps to herself, quiet, just kind of wants to do her own thing, stay at home, and I just love the contrast between these characters. And the pizza scenes, delicious, and I can just picture A Slice of Delight so clearly. It's truly such a good book. I really want to explore more that's written by this author, and I am heavily considering continuing to reread the series, which is the first time I think I've ever gone back and like reread a cozy mystery series. I honestly can't think of any other time where I've reread a cozy mystery before. It's not coming to me. That's how much I love it. Ooh, so one that I recently finished, really loved, is A Crafter Quilts a Crime by Holly Quinn. This is a handcrafted mystery. It is book 3 in the series. I did not read the first 2 books jumping in because this is the only one my library had, and I wanted to give the series a try before going out and trying to buy the other books or get a hold of them somehow. I do have a bookmark here because there's a quiche recipe in the back that I really want to try. But I have read this book and it's fun. It takes place in January. It takes place during this festival called like the Fire and Ice Festival, and it's like this snowy winter festival in town, and it takes place in Wisconsin, so, and this is in January, so there is a lot of snow, so this would be a very good winter pick for a cozy. And our main character, Samantha or Sammy, runs this like quilting shop, which I believe in the first book she takes over after her best friend's death. So she is running this quilting shop, and they have this kind of idea to do like mannequins, real life mannequins in their window where people have to like stay in place like statues and like kind of make up different scenes for 15 minutes while they're in the glass case like a mannequin would, until one of them actually ends up, they pass away like in that glass case. So it's a little, I'm actually kind of morbid, but what I like about this is there's this group of the She's, which stands for, I'm not gonna get all the names, Samantha, oh man, what is it? Heidi, which is Sammy's cousin, and her sister Ellie. So the three of them are like this dynamic trio, and they are hilarious. They are funny. There's a lot of heart to the story. There's a lot of family in this, and she also has the cutest dog. It's a golden retriever right here, and its name is Bara or Bara. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but so sweet. I love this. There were some really gripping moments in this. I was really impressed. So I give it like a 3.5 to 4 stars. I plan on going back and reading the others in the series. This is the most recent book, and I think it came out in like 2020, so I'm not sure if the series is continuing, but there are 3 out in the series. Closely Harbored Secrets by Bree Baker. This is the 5th in the Seaside Cafe mystery series. I have just been loving this series, and it's so good. This is one of my favorite additions to the series. It kind of hints at some interesting island lore. There's this, I read this at the very beginning of the month. Honestly, the plot isn't like super defined. I just remember enjoying it, but I just enjoyed where they went with this one. I liked how Everly Swan with her iced tea shop, how things were kind of progressing. I love her aunts. Her aunts make the series for me. She's got 2 aunts, and they are so funny, and they have very contrasting personalities as well, and I just adore them to bits. There's also a romance in this that I actually don't mind very much. I'm not usually big on romance in my cozies, but this one actually makes my heart kind of go, like, it actually makes me like really happy. So I just really love this. It's fun. There is a Christmas one, and it's book 3 in the series, so if you want to start the series now and like read the Christmas one, you could get to that pretty like in pretty good time. But I've just enjoyed this. It's a really great seaside one. It's one of my favorite like beach cozy mysteries, and an iced tea shop is such a fun concept. Do they have those? I mean, I'm sure they have an iced tea shop somewhere in the world, but let me know, have you ever been to an iced tea shop? Because I've been to a tea shop or like a tea room, but I've never been to an iced tea shop specifically. Ellie Alexander did it again. A Murder at the Movies. This is the 2nd in the Secret Bookcase mystery series, and I'm so excited. I got approved for book 3 and 4, the next 2 releases in the series on NetGalley. I can't wait. We have our main character Annie, and she works at this very cool bookshop that's like, it's done up in like a mansion. So they have all the rooms named after different like Agatha Christie and like different like character, like mystery, like famous mystery icons. They have a Death on the Nile themed like children's reading room. And this one they're doing a film festival because she's kind of an event planner after the first book, as well as a bookseller, because her event went so well in the first book that now a film director reaches out wanting to do this really cool like immersive film festival, which is really fun, and it's like a thriller movie, but someone dies at the movie premiere and Annie gets involved. I love this, and her coworker Fletcher is this like Sherlock obsessed character. Like, he loves Sherlock, he dresses like Sherlock, he could quote you anything from Sherlock, and I love it and adore him so much. Oh, and her friend Pri, she owns like a coffee shop with like baked goods and stuff, which is just so fun and classic cozy, and she's such a cool character. I can't wait to learn more about her. I am just loving this so much, and if this hasn't sold you what I've said about it, her cat's name is Professor Plum. There we go, that's all you need to know. Like, come on, Professor Plum, it's so cute. Definitely read this series in order. There is an overarching storyline to this, which is interesting, and I've really enjoyed that. It involves a past friend of Annie's who passed away, and we're kind of learning about that as we go, and it's very, very interesting. I'm super excited to see where that goes. Peking Duck and Cover by Vivien Chien. This is the latest in the Needle Shop mystery release. The Noodle Shop series is one of my all-time favorite cozy mystery series. Like if you I'm afraid to even say this, but like if I had to make like a top 10 cozy mystery series video, which I can't even imagine, I know The Noodle Shop would have to make it on there because I love this series. Every book in it has been a hit so far. This is book 9 and every book gets just better and better. And Leigh is our main character. She is like in her late 20s. I think she's like just barely a millennial, like kind of on the, she's like me, we're kind of on the cusp I think of millennial and Gen Z, but she is such an amazing character. She is like the hostess and manager of her parents' noodle shop. It's in this place called Asia Village, which is a plaza. It's got all these different Asian businesses, establishments, restaurants, and the entire plaza is going and doing this big like Chinese New Year celebration. So this takes place in January. I actually read this for my Scooby-Doo Fred prompt because he had wintertime setting as one of his prompts, so I read this for that. And at this event they have these dragon dancers, and one of the members of the dance team ends up being murdered, and Lana gets involved. And what I love about this is she's getting more assertive as we go. She's like, you know what, I'm not gonna apologize for sleuthing, I'm gonna go kick butt and I'm gonna sleuth. And I just love her heart. I love her relationships with a lot of her cousin, her best friend and roommate Megan. She has a pug. I would read this series in order. There is a lot of development with subplots and stuff like that with the other characters throughout, so I would kind of recommend reading these in order. You could jump in, but I think you'll get more out of it if you do read them in order. Another one I read this month was Mimi Leigh Reads Between the Lines. It's the second book in the Sassy Cat mystery series. We have our main character Mimi Leigh. She runs this pet grooming shop in like LA, and it's called like Hollywood, and it's themed after Hollywood and it's movies and stuff. It's so fun. I love it. It's so cute. But Mimi Leigh is a great character. She has an older sister who works at a school nearby, and one day she's going to pick her sister up when her sister, one of the like fellow teachers, is murdered and her sister becomes a suspect. So she and her cat Marshmallow, who she can talk to, well actually she can hear Marshmallow. Marshmallow can like talk to her mentally. I don't know, she hears Marshmallow's voice. No one else can hear them. She also finds another little kitten in this one named Nimbus, who was adorable. I love it. So if you are a pet lover, I think this is such a fun cozy mystery. If you're looking for like a millennial sleuth, if you're looking for just a lot of family-centric plot lines, this is a good one. The pet grooming tidbits and slice of life moments are such an amazing touch. Like in one of the scenes she was grooming a bird, which I didn't even realize was a thing. Truly, I've never owned a bird. I didn't realize that was a thing that people took their pet bird to go do. So I just learned a lot. I think it's a really fun series. I'm looking forward to the third book. Ooh, I read Stuck on Murder by Lucy Lawrence. This is the Decoupage mystery series, book 1 in the series, and Lucy Lawrence is a pseudonym for Jen McKinley. So this is one of her earlier books, and I really liked this. This was fun. I didn't know much about decoupage. Basically, it's like different types of like paper mache kind of like art. I'm sure I'm not explaining that right. Let me pop a picture on screen so you get a better idea. But this one was just sweet. It was quick. It was to the point. I listened to an audio. It was a great one while I was cooking and cleaning and stuff this month, and I just enjoyed it. Like 3.5 stars. Not an all-time favorite, but good enough and fun enough that if it sounds like an interesting theme to you, I would check it out. Instagoner by Sydney Leigh. So I read this on ebook as part of a NetGalley arc. It did come out in like late August, so I was a bit behind on it. But this one involves a social media kind of influencer. She runs a blog. The series is called like a Purr and Bark blog series, and she has a really cute dog, so that's always a bonus. But she runs this blog, and she basically has this rival in town who's also like a big social media like kind of podcaster, and she does like a show, like a live show I should say. But one night she is found murdered, and our main character gets involved in the case because even though she didn't love this character, she still feels bad and she wants to use her platform for good, and some people in her life are possible suspects in it, so she really looks into that. I love her friend Fritz. He lives like downstairs to her because she kind of lives close to or like above like the coffee shop that he works at, and he has such a fun character. He's like a part-time a volunteer firefighter, so he's got like an interesting perspective when they're talking clues and like case stuff, which I liked, and I just found it interesting. You also get to read some of her blog posts throughout the book as you go, which is just kind of fun and interesting. I like the mixed media. I gave it 3.5 stars. Not my favorite. There is a bit of cursing So keep that in mind. It's pretty minimal, but just keep that in mind. Coconut Drop Dead by Olivia Matthews. This is the third and most recent in the Spice Isle Bakery mystery series. I just love this. Again, a very family-centric cozy. Our main character is Lindsay Murray. She and her family run a Spice Isle bakery in the little Caribbean part of New York. And in this one, they're going to this Caribbean festival, Caribbean American Heritage Festival. And so they're going to be one of the food vendors there. And while they're there, her cousin Manny, he's kind of involved, or like wanting to be involved with this woman named Camille, who is like the lead singer in a band. They're very cozy, and unfortunately she ends up tripping down steps and dying. She ends up falling to her death, right? Well, Manny is convinced that it was not, you know, an accident, that someone pushed her. So he convinces Lindsay to look into it. And again, Lindsay gets very assertive in this, kind of like the Peking Duck and Cover, where she really just steps up and she's like, I'm not apologizing for my sleuthing. She does kickboxing on the side. She is a very like type A workaholic type character with her business. Her family's trying to get her to balance her work-life balance a little more, and it just to me is very relatable because I'm pretty type A myself, so I really appreciate that. I love her family. I listened to this part on audio and part read it physically, and I loved listening to parts of it on audio because the audiobook narrator would do like the Caribbean accents for certain characters, and that was really enjoyable. And it was nice to hear how certain words and foods are pronounced, because some of them are words that I'm not personally familiar with and are like, I don't know how they're said. So I really enjoyed that. There are so many yummy, delicious things that are described in this. What was some of the ones at the end here? They have a couple recipes. There's coconut pudding and baked sweet potato pudding. I'm not the biggest coconut person, at least when it's like the primary flavor, but the baked sweet potato pudding sounds amazing. So I would really recommend this. It's a really fun one. Again, another millennial sleuth character, and I've just so enjoyed this series. Survival of the Fritters by Ginger Bolton. I loved this book. I had someone recommend this to me this month, and I was like, okay, it's a donut. It's a deputy donut mystery. The cat's name is Dep, and the donut shop is Deputy Donut, and our main character is a widow. Her husband was a police officer and she was a 911 operator, which I think is a very interesting background for an amateur sleuth to have, because she's more aware of the inner workings of the police force and investigations, things like that, than the average person would be. But she runs this diner, like donut diner shop now, and she runs it with her father-in-law, and the two of them are a hoot. I love them. I love her cat. And there's this lovely group of ladies who like knit there every day, and I just love it. There is an amazing neighbor she lives close to. I think for me it was the setting and the people that really made this, but the ending, it was a little dragged out for my taste, but it was so high stakes. I was on the edge of my seat, like mentally yelling at the main character to like, get out, get out, get out, because I was so scared for her. So it was such, like, I still remember the reveal vividly. So this was a really good read, a strong like 4 to 5 stars for me. And then last but not least, by Tonya Capes, we have Beaches, Bungalows, and Burglaries. This is the first in the Campers and Criminals mystery series, and I liked it. I'd say like 3.5 stars, but I like the Mail Carrier series more so far. I've only read 2 of those, and I've read 1 of this one. Our main character in this is Mae West, and she recently found out that her husband was involved in this like Ponzi scheme, and she's left penniless after living a very luxurious life for quite a few years with her husband, and all she has is basically the rights to this campground, and it's in this place called Normal, Kentucky, which that in itself, great naming. It's just like Nightmare, Arizona. You already know it's going to be a kooky place, and it's great. The people there have such personalities and zest for life. There's this laundry club of ladies who all do their laundry together, and they are so much fun. Love them. And Mae West gets there, and the campgrounds are an absolute disaster. I mean, they are in shambles. She's got to do like a fundraiser to run money, and then of course a body is found on the campgrounds, and it just, everything gets started. But it's really fun. I like Mae West. I think she's very tenacious because she's had a lot thrown her way recently, and she's like, I'm not giving up. I'm gonna keep going. And I think the campground is a really great community, and I'm excited to see it evolve as I continue the series. And if you're looking for a series that does seasonal and like holiday theming really well, this series has like 38 or 39 releases right now, and each one is almost always like, there's almost always like a strong seasonal or like holiday theme, it seems. So this is definitely a good one if you're like a seasonal reader. Okay, moving on to a cozy fiction that if you like cozy mysteries and you're okay with a little bit of cursing, I think you would really enjoy. This is The Last Chance Library by Freya Sampson. This made me laugh, this made me cry, this made me feel every single human emotion that's possible. This is the cover, it's so beautiful. Our main character is June, and she is about 28 or 29, and she's a very lonely individual. She's very isolated, she's very cut off. She lost her mother years ago. They lived together, and now she lives in her home / her mother's home. She hasn't changed anything. She works the same place. She never went out to college or pursued her dreams because the grief just kind of crushed her. And she never really moved on from it. She kind of just, her life has been stagnant basically for these last, like, for most of her 20s. And she's forced to kind of come out of her shell in this because the library that she works at is threatened with a closure. So she works together with a lot of the library patrons to try to fight this, dispute this, and she ends up coming out of her shell. She ends up coming more into herself, pursuing her goals, and standing up for things that matter to her. And it's the most heartwarming, touching story. I honestly, Freya Sampson got me with this and Nosy Neighbors. I cried in both. It's so good. It's not a mystery, but it's a very cozy, heartwarming kind of, I don't know if it's a coming of age story, but it's more like a personal growth story, a story about found family and like community, and I just love it. On another note, I read I Need You to Read This by Jessa Maxwell, which is like a general mystery, and I didn't love it. I DNF'd it about halfway through. Our premise for this is that our main character takes a job as an advice columnist for this huge newspaper after her predecessor is murdered. Now the murder is never solved. She starts working there and she notices some shady things. Like the person Francis might have been like getting blackmailed, you know, different things that were happening. But this was so slow. Like I got through half of it and it felt like nothing had happened except the character getting the job. And I just couldn't get myself to read through it. And I loved The Golden Spoon by Jessa Maxwell, so I'm so disappointed. But this one just wasn't for me. I just could not get myself to keep reading. Okay, so now on to thrillers. At the beginning of the month, this is kind of like mystery thriller. I read The Main Character by Jacqueline Goldis. The setting for this, it takes place on a train that's like a replica of the Orient Express, and it's going through the Italian countryside. That in itself. And our main character is hired as a main character by this famous eccentric author, and she always hires a real person to interview and to like pick their brain about their life and to see their reactions to things to inspire her main characters in her novels, which is really interesting. Never thought of that. And this book blew my mind. Basically, the author sets up this character where she's going to go on this Orient Express. She's very excited, but there's people on here that are big players in her life who she knows, and now the author's kind of watching her. It's so cool. It's so creepy. I very much recommend it. One that I didn't love was The Second Mother by Jenny Milchman. It's advertised as a thriller to the best of my knowledge, but this was so slow. Our main character, Julie, she's gone through a lot in her life. She's recently got a divorce. She's moving out to this isolated island in Maine, and she's going to be teaching, and it's cut off from like everything. She thinks there's like a man on the island who might be someone she knows from her past. She's kind of escaping from some things. But I read like 80 pages of this, and all that had happened was like scenes about her dog and like the move. Like nothing happened. And I was looking for a thriller, so this just didn't do it for me. It really felt like a very like a drama, maybe? I don't know. It just wasn't a thriller for me, so I put it down. One that I really liked, but I would strongly recommend maybe looking up trigger warnings for, because this one was dark, but very entertaining, and that is I Can Be a Better You by Taryn Fisher. This is the cover here, and there's a fig on here because one of our primary characters is Fig, and she basically is very obsessive character. Like you're kind of descending into this madness with her as she becomes more and more obsessive about her neighbors' lives. And there's this one woman in particular who she is just so, I don't know if enamored is the right word, but she wants to become her, thus the title. And her name is Jolene, and she seems to have the perfect life, like a perfect daughter, and she just starts to replicate Jolene. She starts to dress like her and act like her and like flirt with her husband and like try to become close to them, and it's so mentally creepy and disturbing, but I couldn't put it down. So it was really entertaining. I cannot tell you about one of my favorite aspects of this without giving spoilers, so just trust me on it that I really enjoyed this. It was very dark, it was very crazy and out there, but it was very mentally interesting, and the husband is a psychologist, which added an interesting layer. The character Jolene that she wants to become like is a writer, so it's just very interesting, the professions they're in, and I couldn't put it down. I mean, it is like really, it's kind of like wacky and out there and kooky and crazy, and I don't know how I feel about the last like page or so. I'm not entirely sure, but I just couldn't put it down, and that's what I want when I pick up thrillers: entertainment and not able to put it down. That's what I want, and this delivered. On the other hand, The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins, I am so disappointed. I know this is a bestseller. I know this was made into a movie. I know a lot of people love this, but I didn't love it. I gave it like 2 stars, 2.5 stars. Our main premise is we're following Rachel. She takes the commuter train to work every day, and she sees this couple when she's on the train, like they're passing houses, and she sees this couple and she like nicknames them and like looks forward to seeing them because they just seem to have this idyllic, perfect marriage, perfect life, beautiful home, you know, that sort of thing. Well, then she witnesses something that concerns her, and then the news happens and she learns something that actually happens to the couple that's not very good, and she gets involved trying to kind of help with that situation. And I'm just gonna leave it at that because I think the less you know, the better. My critique with this, as I felt like 50 pages in the middle of this could have been cut or like trimmed, because there were so many details about Rachel's day-to-day life, and she's a very unreliable narrator. She is somebody who deals very heavily with alcoholism, and you feel sympathy for her. I liked how they delved into her backstory. You do feel sympathy for her, and it's hard to read, but it just was so many details about her day-to-day life, and I was like, okay, we get it. She's having a really rough time. She's having a very rough patch. But it was like, it felt a little excessive. It felt like it really slowed down the plot, and I almost feel like this would have been better if it was just told from one point of view. It was primarily told from Rachel's point of view, but we did jump around a bit. I feel like it would have been more suspenseful from one point of view. I love the idea for the plot. It just kind of was sluggish for me. You Will Never Be Me by Jessa Cusatanto. 5 stars. Amazing. Absolutely so amazing. So we have Meredith and Aspen, and they are 2 influencers, and Meredith is a more experienced influencer. She had the bigger following when they first met. She kind of rebranded Aspen, helped her to grow, and then Aspen kind of dropped her when she got like a bigger following, and that's how Meredith's feeling. She's feeling very upset, betrayed, and one day she has an opportunity to steal Aspen's daughter's like iPad, and the iPad gives her access to the family calendar and like Aspen's email, stuff like that. And she starts to kind of you know, mess up things for Aspen, like, you know, take off special important appointments for work, like with brands, and like to switch up appointments on the calendar. And you know, that's the basic premise. I think the less you know, the better, but this was highly entertaining. I had multiple moments when I was reading this where I actually had to like sit back and like let different twists or plot things sink in because I was so surprised. And I just love Jessa Cusatanto as a writer, whether she's doing cozy mystery to thriller. Everything I've read from her has been excellent. And then last but not least, I read The Hollywood Assistant by Cobb. This was another strong one for me, like 4 stars. Our main character is basically, she's looking to restart life, and her friend gets her this opportunity to be a Hollywood assistant to this famous couple. And she's really, really excited. She's can't believe it because it's a great offer, lots of money, the tasks aren't too bad. She's also an aspiring writer, and this could give her some connections in the industry, and she starts to witness their very volatile relationship. And then one of the people in the couple goes missing, and it seems like she may have been set up for something. I'm gonna leave it at that, but it was really good, really just high entertainment. I just really had a fun time reading it. And that is everything for me for what I read this month. It was a really good reading month overall, a handful of DNFs, but mostly solid reads. Let me know down below, what did you read this past month? What did you enjoy the most? Have you read any of these books I talked about? What are your opinions on them? And I'll see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I do post new video content every week on my channel, especially within the cozy, mystery, and like thriller genres. Anything with a mystery at the heart of it, I talk about. So definitely hit subscribe if you're a fellow mystery lover, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye!